Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the IBEC Region 7 meeting this June 10th, 2020. We'll be starting the presentation in about 5 minutes, just to give a few more minutes for people to join us. While you're waiting, I would encourage you to look to the right-hand side of your screen and locate the questions box. Please feel free to type in your questions throughout the meeting, and we will either respond via that box or at the end of the meeting. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the IBEC Region 7 meeting. We will be getting started in about 3 minutes, just to allow a few more minutes for people to join us on the call. While you're waiting, please locate the question box on the right-hand side of the screen in your dashboard. We'll be looking at questions all throughout the meeting and either answering them via that box, or we'll address them at the end of the meeting in the discussion period. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the IBEC Region 7 meeting. We will be starting the meeting in just 1 minute.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for our Region 7 meeting. Before we begin, I just want to take a quick moment to thank you all for attending. Obviously, I think it would have been much more enjoyable for all of us to be sitting down with our box lunch in Texas a couple months ago. But unfortunately, we have to roll with the punches. And I guess one of the sort of side benefits of this format is that we have the pleasure of welcoming both Scott and Brian today to our meeting to be able to also share with us and speak on some exciting updates. So before we begin with the full meeting, I'd like to just start with the reading of Article 21. Anti-compliance policies and procedures, Section 1, jurisdiction. These policies and procedures apply to all meetings of the membership, board, and committees, other meetings sponsored by IBEC, and all meetings attended by representatives of IBEC, and to IBEC employees in all of their activities within the scope of their employment. Section 2, prohibitions and violations. Discussions of price or price levels are prohibited. In addition, no discussion is permitted of any elements of a company's operation which might influence price. It is a violation of the antitrust laws to agree not to compete. Therefore, discussions of division of territories or customers or limitations on the nature of business carried on or products sold are not permitted. Boycotts in any form are unlawful. Discussions relating to boycotts is prohibited, including discussions about blacklisting or unfavorable reports about particular companies, including their financial situation. With that finished, I'd like to pass it over to Scott to provide a quick President's address.
Hey, thanks, Jennifer. So welcome, everybody. I appreciate all of you taking the time to join us today. In case you don't know, I'm Scott Hinesley. I have the pleasure of being the current president of IBEC, and I have been the president since our meeting in March, our virtual meeting in March. And so strangely, I'm about a sixth of the way through my presidency, and I've not been to a single meeting in person. So if future will judge me, I hope there's an asterisk beside my name so that people don't think I was just a colossal failure. But no, we're going through some weird stuff. There's weird times all around us. COVID has been somewhat of a punch to the gut to us. And really, you know, from all different aspects, from the workload, the financial aspect, but the sanity aspect, that seems to be something that I struggle with. I feel like my head's about to explode sometimes because of so many different things going on and learning new technologies and ways to interact with everybody. So with that being said, I hope all of you are safe. I hope you're staying healthy and busy. And I hope you're staying sane. So I guess everybody's probably already heard that there's a convention going on this weekend, our first ever virtual convention. I want to give Brian and Karen and Melanie and the whole IBEC team just tons of credit for being able to be flexible and make changes on the fly in order to be able to offer educational opportunities and other content that we really didn't think was going to be possible at one point in time. So they've done a tremendous job of not just salvaging the convention, but really turning it into something that I think is going to be a huge success and something that we can build on in the future. If we don't have the same structure for future conventions, I can almost assure you that there will be aspects of this virtual convention that will be carried forward into all future IBEC conventions wherever we are. It will also help to extend our reach around the globe as well. So I look forward to virtually seeing everybody there starting on Friday. I want to give one more plug, though, also to the foundation auction. That actually opens up, bidding opens up on Friday at 7:30 Central Time, and it doesn't close until Sunday at, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It starts 8:30 Central Time on Friday, and then it closes at 7:30 on Sunday. So there will be the opportunity for you to bid on quite a few items. You can take a look at the foundation website. It will show you all the different items that you can bid on. One thing that I forgot to mention about the educational sessions, historically, when you attended the convention in person, you had to pick and choose which of maybe 12 or so different educational sessions you wanted to attend. In the format that we're doing now virtually, you will have the opportunity to attend all of the educational sessions, and you don't have to do it all this coming weekend. Brian and his team have extended the date several weeks so that you'll have the ability to spread it out over time. And I hope all of you take advantage of that. I think some of our educational units may be difficult to get going forward. So great opportunity to get as many as you can. That's all I've got to say. I hope you're safe. I hope you're well. I really look forward to seeing each of you in person really soon. But in the meantime, take care of yourself and be safe. And with that, I will turn it over to Brian Palish.
Scott, thank you very much, and glad everyone's on the phone today. Again, I share Scott's wishes for everyone that they're staying safe and hopefully a little bit busy and definitely sane. Looking forward to when we can all be together again. I am pleased. You guys, a special day for me here at IBEC. This is my year anniversary, and so I've shared a couple of nice things with this region. You guys were the first region I visited a chapter meeting at. Some of you were at that event last summer in Toronto, so thank you, and I'm sorry I'm not seeing you in person. I've made it 1 year. It's been an interesting year, and let me give you guys a little bit of an update on that. Next slide, Tara. I would say, first of all, we are as much business as usual, and by what I mean by that is IBEC is operating. We are full, we are staffed, we are working all obviously from home, but are continuing to produce materials and activities for our members and provide the member value that I think that you expect from IBEC. So if we're not doing that, you need to please let us know that. A couple things that we have done a little bit more proactively in relationship to COVID-19 and the pandemic is, first and foremost, we've allowed a 3-month grace period for membership renewals. We know for some companies, accounts payable has been a bit of a problem as job sites have slowed down and work in some places was actually postponed or halted. And so what we've done is for everyone, the best way for me to explain this is if your dues, you got your dues notice a couple days ago at the beginning of June, it's not due until September 1. So that 3-month grace period is in place, and you know we are still seeing people join, and we are still seeing people renew their membership. So that's been the positive. In addition to that, we took the proactive step when we had to postpone the convention, that we postponed the due date for CEH and registration payments. Now, the good news on the registration side is most people had already, before the pandemic sort of really, if you will, got going. I'm not sure that that's the right way to put that, but we had received most of everyone's renewals on that. But from a CEH perspective, what we do know is that people end up coming to the IBEC annual convention and trade show to get a good piece of their CEHs in a given year. And so as a result, we have postponed the due date for you to file those and let us know that you got those all taken care of to December 31st of 2020. In some of the more proactive things we did in terms of informing folks about what's going on, we did hold an April 15th town hall where we discussed some of the activities that were going on at the federal government and provincial and state government level, both in the US and in Canada, with regards to the construction industry and COVID-19. We had some panelists that went through a bunch of the activities that were going on. That's still available on our website. And most of those programs I think are still ongoing. I'm probably a little fuzzier on what's going on for you all in Canada than for the US. Many of our programs have run out of money or are close to running out of money, and we haven't decided to print more of it yet. But we are those activities or that webinar is available. You can go watch it if you're interested. In addition, we did create a page on our website that cobbles together a bunch of different information from a variety of sources, both from the Canadian government, the US government, from other industry associations, from the WHO and others about how folks should go about dealing with some of the issues in regard to COVID-19. So I would urge you to, if you're interested, it's many of these things are things you've probably seen elsewhere, but we felt we should have a one-stop shop on the IBEC website. So we were able to get that up and running pretty quickly. And then in a few other things that we've done, we have done some public policy activities where we've been asked. We've signed letters to governments, state, local, federal. I'm not sure that we've signed on to any in Canada, where we've asked governments to open up for construction work, especially that work which is deemed essential. Since most of what you all are doing is the building enclosure, it becomes essential for the protection of the rest of the building and the structure. So we were successful in a number of those requests. So next slide, Tara. That's some of the stuff that we did for the COVID, if you will, but that hasn't slowed us down from doing the work that we needed to do in other areas for IBEC members. One of the main things we've been working on, and we're really excited that this is going to debut this year, is our CBE-CXP certification program, which is a building commissioning provider certificate or certification that you will be able to get beginning in probably be able to take the test early in the fall or September. The application should be out later this summer. This is something that frankly probably would have been out by now, and we'd be marketing this pretty heavily. We were slowed down by the travel restrictions as part of COVID-19 because the committee that was supposed to meet one last time to finish the question development process was supposed to meet at the annual convention, and obviously we did not have that. And to follow the ISO standard that we're following to create this certification program, you have to meet in person. Now, we have found a workaround to this, and that workaround is going to be deployed in June, in the next 2 weeks or so, 1 week or so, and we're going to start that question development process again. But we had to figure out the workaround and deal with that. And then the application will be due as well. That's being finalized. You'll see the application first. You can fill that out, submit your application to be ready to take the exam, and then the exam will follow shortly thereafter. After a number of years of work, we've also been able to release the 3rd edition of the Manual of Practice. Many of you are already aware of this. I urge you all to go to the IBEC website and purchase a copy for yourself. We are primarily focused on a digital copy of this manual this time for a number of reasons. Main one being the ease of use and the fact that you can sort of keep it with you. It's a pretty lengthy book and one that you can utilize from your laptop pretty easily. However, there was a bit of a request in some folks who really wanted us to actually have it made available as a physical hard copy, and we were able to find a vendor who would do print on demand, and so that is now available. So if you are a little bit like me and like books still and like to flip through a book rather than looking at something electronically, that is an available option for you now as well. In addition, and last, sort of on the general update, we have created 2 new committees at IBEC since we all last got together. And the first of those is the IBEC Codes and Standards Committee. The staff person for that is Emily Loren. She's our Senior Director of Technical Services, and she's the staff liaison for that. David Hahn, who many of you may know, is the chairman of that committee. And that committee is going to look at the codes and standards process, not only in the United States, but also up in Canada. And we are looking for some Canadian assistance with that committee. So if you have interest in that, reach out to myself or Scott Hinesley, and we can figure that out. We've been in touch with a few folks in Canada. But the goal really is to have IBEC more involved in the codes and standards process in both countries. We see a need for us to get involved earlier and earlier in that process to ensure that the ideas that are being promulgated in those, especially building codes, are done in a proper fashion, and they actually protect the public health and safety of the folks that are occupying buildings. So that committee, we're looking forward to the work they're doing. I know they've met a few times. And then the second committee that was created as we turned over to a new year is the Industry Liaison Committee. And this is a committee that we created with an eye towards engaging with our supplier or manufacturing members to listen to more about what they're interested in doing with IBEC and engaging in with IBEC. Part of it is real simple tactical stuff. What can we do to make the annual meeting and the exhibit hall and those kinds of things, the sponsorship programs within IBEC and those sorts of things better? But some of it is much broader than that. Is there research that IBEC can help do to improve what the practices and the procedures in the industry and things like that? So that group has met a couple of times, and we're looking forward to the work that they can do. Next slide, Tara. Since I've now been here a year, one of the things when I got here, I did ask for a copy of the strategic plan. I actually had it during the interview process, but one of the things we did start discussing was how the strategic plan, which had been adopted in the fall of 2017, how it was reflective of the organization that we were becoming. IBEC, as you well know, changed its name about a little over 15 months ago, back in March of 2019, and it was we really wanted to make sure that the strategic plan reflected the new name, the new direction, and the new thought process that had been going into the organization. So at the staff level and working with the executive committee and the board of directors, we spent some time taking a look at the strategic plan, making some minor tweaks to it for the most part. Next slide, Tara. And as you see, one of the tweaks that we made in that previous slide demonstrates that is we've now fitted what was a 7 or 8 page document onto 1 page. I come from a long line of people that maybe believe that we should try and keep things on 1 page. I worked in Washington, D.C. for a long time, and plenty of people there can only read 1 piece of paper. They can't go much deeper than 1 page. So I think in some sense, to keep a little bit of the attention focus, keeping it on 1 page is beneficial. And so we've been able to do that. You'll see that the purpose and the vision and the values, those really haven't changed. IBEC hasn't changed too much. We've expanded to include the building enclosure, but that was part of the previous or the 2017 iteration. Obviously, creating value for IBEC members is still terribly important and a key pillar of what we do for you all. Advocacy is growing in importance, and it holds that place there. Registrations and certifications are the backbone of some of what we offer to our members. We've included that CBECXP certification program. Next slide, Tara. And then the whole idea of knowledge transfer, and I'm going to talk about the virtual meeting in a couple seconds here, but that knowledge transfer, being able to provide you all educational opportunities to be up to date on the most pressing and relevant technical data and how we're doing procedures and processes in this industry is terribly important, and IBEC's role in that is key. Chapters are the way we grow this organization, and focusing on their operations and being able to grow chapters and improve their value and brand is only going to help improve the value and the brand of IBEC. And then what we did and what we were able to do was, as we were looking at the strategic plan, these last 2 bullets, if you will, or these last 2 boxes. One is emerging professionals, and I will say, you know, if we're not focused on the emerging professionals in this industry, we won't have IBEC for very long. So one of the keys that we've done, and we've had a committee for a number of years focused on emerging professionals, but we wanted to elevate that and make sure that folks knew that throughout the organization, it's all of our jobs to focus on making sure that there are new members of IBEC and younger members of IBEC to the profession, and keep them coming up through the ranks. And then last but not least, and this is something that again has been at the core of what IBEC's done way back when it was RCI, so long ago as a year, and many years before that, from the late 80s, is this idea of a code of ethics. This is something that you all, as you sign up for IBEC every year and pay your dues, you're signing off on the code of ethics. When you engage in the registrations, you're actually also adhering to our code of ethics, and we want to elevate that and remind people more about the central role that ethics and our code of ethics plays in the practice of building and closure consulting. And so this is one way to do that, is to make sure that it's on the strategic plan and shown as a core value. The other thing we're doing is trying to provide a little bit more programming and education on ethics. One thing you'll probably have seen is that we're running a quarterly column in the magazine on ethics, and that's something that we feel is terribly important as a way to start a discussion and keep that at the forefront of what we think is an important piece of IBEC's strategic plan. Next slide. Oh, that's not, shouldn't be that. Oh, okay. You're gonna have to go to the next slide, Tara, I think. Maybe this one got out of order. There we go. Okay. So the virtual convention and trade show, hopefully all of you are registered. Hopefully I will be able to chat with all of you in the chat function when we start this thing at I think it's 9 o'clock on Friday morning, Central Time, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, all of us wanted to be in Houston. Many of us were planning to be in Houston. That did not happen. I will say, as Scott said, and I will say it as well, we did some pretty Herculean work as a staff team, and I say we. There was, I feel like I had very little to do with it. Karen and Chris Barnes and Mendy and others actually did tremendous work in a little over 70 days. Create a virtual trade show and convention from something that we'd never done before. So you'll see in this first slide that you see here is the lobby, if you will, of the convention. When you go and log in and get that login, this is what you'll see first up. Those of you who aren't interested or are a little bit unsure, I would certainly urge you, if you go to the IBEC website, we did a training webinar on Tuesday, I believe it was, where they gave me control of the mouse and they let me walk everyone through how the virtual meeting worked. It was actually only the second time I'd done it. I'm not sure if you can tell that on the video or not, but it was relatively easy and intuitive, and really provides a lot of, I think, interaction from the IBEC perspective. One thing I think is key to note is all 24 education sessions that were available in Houston are going to be available on the virtual meeting. 23 of them will be recorded and will be available from June 12th, or when they go live, all the way until July 15th. So let's say you're registered for the meeting and you do want to watch all 23 that have been recorded, if you will. You will be able to do that. The only one that's not going to be recorded is one that will be broadcast on Monday, and we actually extended the meeting by one session for Monday to be able to have Baz Baskeren do his session on the things that have been learned in the research of wind hazards. I think it's in the last 10 years. I could have the number of years wrong. I can't remember the exact title, but it sounds like a good session and one we didn't want to have fall by the wayside, and Baz couldn't do it over the weekend, and so we allowed him, we figured out a way to get it done on the Monday. So next slide, Tara. When you go and you click on the presentation or the auditorium, which is the button at the very bottom there, you can see it very lightly in blue there. This is the auditorium that you'll go to. And when you're going to go to the sessions, you'll then click on view presentations. It will pop open a list of presentations that you can view. And this is sort of the entryway and the gateway to all of the education that you're going to get over those couple of days. And you'll see down at the bottom there, you see the Denims and Diamonds online auction. That is where we're trying to remind people to go and visit the foundation auction. That is how you do that. Next slide, Tara. Anyone who is participating in the meeting and is registered, you can chat with. And so the key, I think, that in this slide is just knowing that anyone who's going to be there, you guys, if you're going to go and you want to chat with me, you find me in this list and you ping me. If the box there is showing green, that means I'm logged into the meeting and am available live at that point. And if it's grayed out, that means what you're going to end up doing is sending what will turn into an email, and the person that you're chatting with can get back to you at a later time. It may be that they just say, "Oh, I just stepped away. Let's meet back here at 1 o'clock or something like that." Next slide. I'm also happy to report that we have 65 different booths and exhibitors that have decided to join us for this virtual trade show. I will say I'm not sure that many of them actually have participated in a virtual trade show before. We had to do a little bit of work convincing them to participate in the virtual trade show. We were thrilled that these 65 decided to do that. And I would urge everyone who's going to participate in this meeting over the weekend to please visit as many of these exhibitors as you can. Ask the technical questions that you need to, and I would thank them for their support of IBEC. It's important what they've been able to do, and some of these booths are pretty cool. If you can go to the next slide, Tara. So this is the way a booth will look when you get there. You can see the foundation booth. All of the little images that you see there, the logos and the denim and diamonds and the screens are all clickable and take you somewhere. Some of those will take you to a list of some of the organizations. Some of the exhibitors have videos, demos that you can see, and other product information. Some of them, will allow you to actually live chat in the booth. And there's a couple bars at the top there. You see those long horizontal bars. They're white up there. Those will allow you to chat with sales reps who are in the booth. Again, it'll be a similar response. If they're not live, you can send them an email and set up a time. But we think that this is going to allow for some very good interaction with the exhibitors and the folks who will be participating. So again, I urge you all to take a look at that. Next slide. Okay. This slide just talks a little bit about our upcoming events. Obviously, you all know that the convention and trade show is starting on Friday. There is time to register if you're not sure. We've actually had I think it's close to 30 registrations in the last week. So those are new folks who are registering that weren't registered for the meeting in Houston. So that is fantastic. And so there is still time to do that. You just have to go to the IBEC website and do that. We are still awaiting sort of a determination as to whether or not we're going to be allowed to have IC Best in Vancouver this summer. I know when I was there, seeing most of you in Toronto last summer, number of us chatted about how we would see each other in Vancouver. We did not know that we would have a pandemic in the way of that. Right now, as you all are probably aware, in Vancouver, the government of British Columbia is not allowing large gatherings, and we are definitely considered a large gathering because we're more than, I don't know what the restriction is exactly right now, but we're more than 10, I know, and so right now we're just waiting for a little bit more clarification from the government of British Columbia. We do believe that we will be able to be together in November at the BES Plus. This is slightly, or at least using the same hotel that we would have used during March. The Plus portion of this event is going to be a focus. Two things will be the plus, if you will. One is the awards luncheon that we always do at the convention. We did not want to go and not honor the folks who are getting awards. And so that is going to be part of the Houston meeting. And then those auxiliary seminars that we normally have on the Friday before the convention, those will actually also be held on that Friday, November 20th. So those of you who are planning or thinking about going to Houston, I'm pretty sure it's going to be warmer in Houston in November than it will be in Toronto. And in your chapter area. So last but not least, those of you who want to get a little bit of a head start on your calendar preparation, March 4th through 9th of 2021 is the next annual International Convention and Trade Show. So please mark your calendars. We look forward to seeing you in Phoenix. Definitely it will be warmer in Phoenix than it will be in Canada in March. I'm willing to wager on, no problem. So with that, Jennifer, I'm going to turn it back to you. Thank you all very much. Stay safe, and I hope to see some of you this weekend at the virtual convention.
Thanks, Brian. I know after sitting in on the sort of training seminar on Tuesday for the virtual convention, I'm pretty excited about it. It was great to just sort of see how to walk through that event. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope I see everybody there. I'd like to just spend a little bit of time providing a few updates specific to Region 7. So if I could get the next slide, please. I'd like to start by just welcoming any new members or students who are in attendance. We are very, very excited to welcome you here today and are glad that you're joining us actually at a great venue to sort of hear a little bit about what IBEC has to offer, as well as some of the news about what's going on specifically in our region and our local chapters and branches. So it's great to have you out here today. Along the same vein, I'd like to just encourage everyone, new members, existing members, longtime members, to look out for leadership and mentoring opportunities. A couple of the things we specifically like to point out is to try to engage local universities, younger professionals and students. If you have any working in your firms with you, if you know any through friends, families, other connections, talk to them a little bit about IBEC and some of the great opportunities that exist in this organization for them. Another way you can do that is actually volunteering to mentor a student. Those opportunities are going to be available again, I would hope, at the 2021 Convention and Trade Show. And that's really just a great chance to sort of take a student under your wing, introduce them to some of your connections, and really help them to make the most of their convention experience and really feel welcomed. Another exciting development that will be coming out this year, the Chapter Development Committee is going to be releasing some online modules about leadership roles and responsibilities. Essentially, these presentations will go through each of the positions on the executive committee and really just give all of our membership some insight into what those roles entail and hopefully spark some interest in our up and coming leaders. I'm just going to go through a few region statistics for everyone and talk about some of the things that we're doing locally. So currently we have about 316 total members. As you know, our region actually only has one chapter right now and 2 branches, but there will be some more news about that. I won't steal Denise's thunder. We make up about 9% of IBEC's total membership, and our year-over-year growth has been fairly modest over the last couple of years. The Southern Ontario chapter has actually been actively working on a couple of different initiatives to help sort of grow our membership. Some of the recent things that have been completed are some new videos that are available on our chapter website. We've been working on various different letters and PowerPoint presentations that can be used as tools to help retain membership and attract new members. Next slide. One target that we've actually discussed at the chapter level for a number of years now is actually trying to increase the number of registrations that we have in our region. The next slide will show you a little bit about the totals, but what this slide is showing you is actually how many registrations we've had over the last couple of years. And as you can see, we haven't had a lot of successful applications take place in 2019, obviously only 3 for RRO. And in the current year, obviously we're sitting at just 1 right now. This is something that the chapter has been looking at, like I said, for a number of years, and they've had a number of different discussions about ways that we could potentially encourage our membership to try to achieve their registrations. And some of that is a marketing piece, and some of it we feel is an education piece where we've looked at offering various different study groups or meetups for people to help with some of the anxiety that maybe comes from having to tackle a large exam. Hopefully, we'll start to see some more momentum build on this over the next couple of years. Obviously, 2020, with the pandemic in place right now, is going to be a challenging year to see a lot of growth in this area, particularly because many companies are starting to reduce or pull back on some of their discretionary spending on things like training. But we hope that the work we can do over this year will start to build momentum for that in the years to come. Next slide. So here you can see the totals, as I mentioned. Again, we do have a fairly good representation under the RRO category, but we would definitely like to see more people in Region 7 starting to try to aim for those consultant designations. I think obviously there's a great opportunity for growth here. Next slide. Sorry about that. Chapter updates. So I just have a couple of things I wanted to bring to everyone's attention for chapter updates. The first is just to congratulate all of the members of Southern Ontario chapter and the board in particular. In 2019, once again, Southern Ontario chapter was successful at achieving the platinum level of the Outstanding Chapter Awards. It just goes to show the amount of work that the board puts in and their dedication. And it's something that I'm really proud of the last few years. I think the Ontario chapter just continues to grow and continues to do excellent, excellent work. Just a reminder, as Brian had sort of already touched on, the awards presentations for these awards, which typically happen at convention, will be happening at the BES Plus in November. Next slide. So one more just quick reminder specific to the convention this week. If you haven't yet registered and you're planning to register for this weekend, we just want to remind you to use the IBEC 2020 SO code when you complete your registration. And that code will actually allow 25% of your registration funds to go back to the chapter. This is sort of like a one-time only agreement and offer really that's come from IBEC to help support local chapters during this pandemic at a time when we know that hosting our typical social events and other educational events is quite a challenge. So if you haven't yet registered and you're planning to, please make sure to use that code and the chapter would greatly appreciate it. Next slide. So at this point in time, I'd actually like to just call on Denis Theriault. He's the current president of the Southern Ontario chapter. And he's just going to provide you a couple of updates about what they're working on and a couple of really exciting announcements. Denis?
I'm muted. Sorry? Oh, I think we're okay.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Thanks, Denis.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining the Region 7 webinar meeting this year. I have two topics I just wanted to touch on real quickly. One is about COVID-19 and how it's affected our chapter this year. Many of you know that we've had a couple cancellations in some of we had hoped to have held. Unfortunately, COVID mandated us to shut them down. We're finding ways to try to make up this education that we're missing out on by having webinars. We had our first one last week. It turned out really well, and we're looking to have another one coming up in about 3 weeks with more to follow. So we're looking out for our members' interest in keeping our education up as much as possible. And of course, virtual convention, if you really need your CHEs, great place to load up on them for this year and save some for next year as well too. Plus, I think the chat functionality with other members will be really good to be able to chat with everyone. So I think it'll be a really good virtual convention. So I hope to see you guys there. Social, we typically don't have many events going through the summer with the exception of golf, which would have happened next week. We did postpone that until September. We're going to be monitoring what our government suggests we do as far as social distancing moving forward. I hope by September we will be able to have our annual golf tournament. But of course, we can't guarantee anything at this time. So we'll have to just wait, and you'll see announcements of that coming out in about a month's time, whether or not it will be happening. My second topic is actually an announcement. So and for some of you already know this, we've been working at this for a long time, but I'm pleased to say that our National Capital branch will be transforming into a chapter for 2021. This has been a goal of ours for quite some time now, and we're finally ready to make that transition. So I'm really happy that through all this COVID, that we could still come up with some good news and see that our chapter is growing, our chapters now, and our region's growing. So this is really good news for our region and for IBAC as a whole. The new chapter will not go by National Capital Branch anymore. We are going to be given it a new title. It'll be called the Quebec Ontario Chapter, or the QOC chapter. It'll essentially range from Kingston, going northern towards the north of Ontario, and all of Quebec. So that expect to see that chapter roll out 2021. Yeah, that's all I have for everyone right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Denny. So I think that pretty much takes us to the end of sort of the formal presentation portion of our afternoon. Typically, we do have some fairly lively comments and discussions, I know, at our region meeting. So if you haven't had a chance yet, I just want to encourage you again, if you have any questions, to pop them into that chat bar, or if you'd like to hear about any of the other initiatives we're working on. Obviously, the board is working on a number of different things, and we haven't covered every single one of them today. So if you have any questions specific to IBEC or specific to Southern Ontario, specific to Region 7, please pop them in that chat box, and I'll let Tara sort of start sharing the questions, and hopefully we can tackle them together.
Hey, Jennifer. Well, it looks like we don't have too many questions right now. We had some comments and some that were already answered, but if anyone has any questions, I would encourage you to use that questions box in the corner, and we'll be happy to read these out. Oh, also, just a note, the strategic plan is also uploaded into your dash. So if you see the handouts feature, you can actually download that one pager straight from this presentation. Oh, we do have a question. Does it mean that for us in Quebec, we'll be a Quebec Ontario chapter member?
Yeah, so that is actually the intention. So we have had the National Capital branch for a number of years now, and myself and some of the chapter leadership have gotten together with the members who lead that branch at this point, and sort of reviewed boundaries to try to determine what makes the most sense for essentially splitting our membership. So as Denis mentioned, what we had agreed upon was basically anything Kingston towards Quebec, and then Southern Ontario would retain anything from Kingston back into the Golden Horseshoe. You should still have access to all of the same resources. I know that the National Capital Branch has been very active about trying to plan events, not only in Ottawa, but also starting to attend some things in Montreal. So our hope is that by sort of splitting these chapters at this point and dedicating an entire board of directors to further serving that market, the people in those regions will start to see more events happening, and we'll be able to sort of build on what we already have, the momentum right now, and see some more growth in that region. If you're interested in more information specifically about potentially volunteering or being a member of the board or helping with a committee in that region, absolutely reach out to myself, reach out to Michelle. His name, I believe, was shown on one of the previous slides, but we would be happy to have people to help us out with that even further.
Excellent. We have a couple more questions. We do have a note from Hardeep Bueller, mentioned that the Monday session with Baz Baskaran must be viewed live and is not available afterwards. So that's a very good comment. Thank you. We have another from Stephanie Robinson. If I'm a member of the new chapter, can I still attend events put on by the existing chapter if I wanted to?
Absolutely. So our events are actually open to everybody and anybody, members and non-members alike. And in terms of getting membership rates and those sort of things, we actually we honor membership from anywhere in IBEC. It's not specific to your chapter. If you have been a member of the Southern Ontario chapter as a whole, I believe you are on all of our email lists. If you're interested in still receiving emails from us, you will continue to get those until you unsubscribe. So you should still be able to see all of the posting and information about those events. And we absolutely would welcome people to sort of cross-attend events as they're interested and as they're available between the two chapters.
Okay. Our next one is from Jean-Guy Levesque. I know that a chapter in Western Canada is planning a virtual RTQA course. Can all chapters putting virtual courses together share these courses or advertise these to other members?
Okay, so I think there's maybe two parts in there. In terms of advertising them to other members, we do try our best to keep in touch with the other chapters sort of in the area, particularly when they're doing virtual events. I hadn't been made aware of that one as of yet, but I will speak with the board, and actually Denise on the line as well. We can talk about how to maybe better improve the sort of cross-pollination of advertisements across the two chapters. One of the things we try to be a little bit cautious about with stuff like that is we don't want to sort of inundate our members with too many emails. And I know at times with the number of webinars and events that we have going on right now, it can be a little overwhelming, but maybe we can look at having something set up where we can have sort of a neighboring chapters events tab or something like that on our website that we can sort of post some of that information to make it available for you guys.
I'd also like to add,
sorry, just to jump in there real quick. It's well said, Jennifer. We've talked about this before in the past too, Jean-Guy, that maybe instead could be, because right now we get emails directly from our chapter and it would be too much to receive it from multiple chapters, but in our LinkedIn or Facebook, we would be able to, and even our new website, easily show the other chapters, webinars and other functions that they're doing that our members could also attend. And that's also the plan moving forward with the QOC chapter, and be able to mix everything together, but not bombard the members with meeting requests or emails of that sort. And just to further clarify too, we also have the East Coast. We didn't forget about the East Coast of Canada. Right now, that is still going to be a branch of Southern Ontario chapter. But likewise with those members, they'll also be able to attend some of the meetings that they may have in Quebec. That will be a lot closer for them to attend as opposed to going all the way to Ontario, just to clear that up.
Perfect, thanks, Denny.
No problem.
And I don't see any more questions. Oh, nope, we just got one in from Brian Fishburne. Curious as to how many people are attending this virtual meeting. And he encourages us that at future conventions, can we include virtual components so Region 7 members not in person may also be able to participate. And I can see how many people we have attending right now. It looks like we have 32. And this is a great idea. This is something that we would need to kind of run by our events department and just kind of see the ins and outs and the potentials of doing this. But going forward, I can definitely see us incorporating a lot more virtual events. It's just going to be kind of depending on each event and what possibilities we've got to use.
Yeah, and I think Brian had touched on that.
I'm not sure that Brian's asking, this meeting is in the one that we're having right this second, or the meeting that starts on Friday. So Brian, if you're asking about the meeting that starts on Friday, we've got somewhere close to 1,100 people registered for the meeting this weekend. And I do think, and I think that's what Scott commented on in his remarks, and we do believe that there is some sort of path forward for a hybrid model for some of our events that we're going to be doing. I don't know what that will look like in Phoenix, and I don't have the guts right now to tell Karen that we should think about a virtual component for that meeting, because she's just finishing with this one. So, but I do think, for example, many of you participated in the annual meeting of the members that we had, which was a little closer to that March timeframe. I definitely see the ability for us to do that virtually next year from Phoenix. And I would hope that we would do that. That way we can get more engagement from a larger segment of our membership who may not be able to get to Phoenix. Whether we're able to do some of the education, I'm not sure, but it's something we can figure out. We got a little time to do that.
Excellent. And I'm not seeing, oh, no, there we go. This is Jean-Guy Levesque. Can you touch on some of the advocacy aspects, excuse me,
that we're working on right now in Southern Ontario? Actually, Denis, we just talked about this at our board meeting, didn't we? So we do have, do you want to touch on it? You can go ahead.
Yeah, Jean-Guy, we created an advocacy committee this year. So now we have an advocacy director, which is France Seguin from, what's the name of the company she's from, Jennifer? I can't recall off the top of my head.
I can't recall off the top of my head either. Sorry.
I'm sure you know her, Jean-Guy. She's looking after the advocacy committee. I do believe she was asked to get in touch with you along with some other members who are advocacy professionals, if you will, and further our committee for advocacy in the Southwestern Ontario chapter. So we do have that going on.
And we're getting some comments. It looks like the company is Englobe.
There you go.
And Globe. Sorry, sorry, Frost. You're probably there. Sorry.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if the question was directed as well to more fulsomely with IBEC, what's happening with advocacy. We had touched on it during our AGM, our Southern Ontario chapter AGM at the beginning of the year, but there has been a line item included in the budget for Canadian advocacy efforts on behalf of IBEC. I don't have any updates on any actual activities at this point, and I suspect that COVID has probably put a bit of a hankering in some of that progress. But it is something that is in the budget and is something that is planned to take place going forward, hopefully within Canada as well as in the US.
And I'm not seeing any other questions here, but I do have a comment from Hardy Buller about Ted Sheridan having 1 year, less than 1 year to go before his presidency. And let's see here. We've got from Brian Fishburne, a comment that maybe we can look into including Region 6 as possible for a comprehensive discussion with Canadian members, as we've done at previous conventions.
Yeah, and that was one thing we did talk a little bit about when we were sort of initially planning this, is that typically we did have that sort of Region 6 time. Because of the way we were scheduling these and because of the nature of the discussions, it made it a little bit challenging to try to have that combined conversation. As you can see, obviously, we're kind of limited to responding to comments and stuff like that because we're not all sitting in the same room. But definitely that's something that we want to maintain going forward. And I will tell you that Bert and I have actually had a number of phone calls and conversations as he's sort of come up to speed as the new director for that region, just about how things work in Canada a little bit differently and how I've approached the role and sort of what we can do to work together to make sure that the Canadian members' interests are being met. So some of those activities are underway. We are actively having those discussions and conversations.
All right, and if anyone else has any questions, again, I would encourage you just to go ahead and type it in that question box on the right-hand side. But I am not seeing any more come in. All right.
Last call.
I think that's about it, other than some congratulatory and some pats on the back for a great job that you all are doing. I think that's about it.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for coming out today. I know it's a little different than our usual format, but I appreciate everyone being here. And as always, if you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly. My contact information is available on the website, and I'm always up for a quick chat, phone call, email, or otherwise. So thank you again.